Okay, let me share my screen. Yes, so to come to today's session, we have a topic for this session, as you already know what you registered, RPA Business Analysis up and running. So the purpose of this session is to have a panel of discussants, people who are professionals within the RPA space. They are also professionals within the business analysis and project management space within IT implementation. So we're going to be asking them some questions, and we're going to be answering those questions from their point of view and from their experience. Okay. Today's host, we have Emmanuel Kolawole. Is a UiPath MVP and is a senior RPA developer at Sterling Bank. My humble self, I'm Aferraroni. I'm an RPA consultant at Daipo Diamond, and our community manager for EMEA region, Christina Vidu. We are today's hosts. On the panel, we have the following speakers. Chinaza Obiwuru is a business process automation and project manager at Sterling Bank. And we also have Lade Ajayi, she's an IT manager at Access Bank. Chinaza and Lade, want to say hi quickly?
Yeah, I'd love to say hi. I'm excited to be here today to meet everyone. Thank you.
Okay, so for today's session, it's not going to last more than 1 hour. We know that it's the start of the weekend and everybody wants to forget about the very, very busy schedule they've had this week. But we encourage everyone to network and to share their LinkedIn in the chat box. And we apologize for keeping you mute until the Q&A time. But if you have questions, please do not shy away from dropping them on the chat. When we get to the Q&A session, and we attend to all of that. Thank you very much. So for today's agenda, we're going to have the panel discussion, and then we're going to have the Q&A, and then we're going to close out. So starting with Emmanuel is going to join me to anchor the discussion, and Lade and Chinaza are going to answer questions and partake in the discussion. Thank you very much. So Emmanuel, can we start?
Thank you very much, Afe, for that beautiful introduction. Hi, everyone. We're going to be having this great session with these two great people, which is Lade and Chinaza. I'm going to be starting my own question with Chinaza. And I don't know if Chinaza can hear me. If you can hear me, I want my first question to Chinaza will be, who is an RPA developer? Who is an RPA business analyst? I don't know if you can just help us out with that. Can you hear me, Chinaza?
Yes, I can hear you, Emmanuel.
Yeah,
Thank
I want to
you.
know who an RPA business analyst is.
Okay. Please confirm if you can hear me. Am I clear enough? So
yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, Emmanuel. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Thank you. So your question says, who is an RPA business analyst? So I'm going to answer this question in a very brief manner, and I'm going to say an RPA business analyst is also a business analyst, just in case you have business analysts here and they're like, oh, this is revolving around RPA. Say a business analyst is someone that acts as a middleman between the business and the technical team. So speaking to the RPA, an RPA business analyst is someone that acts as a liaison officer, technical team, or the RPA business analyst, ensures that the requirements, are communicated in a way that the technical, so basically an RPA business analyst is just someone
Hello,
that
Chinasa.
ensures that the stakeholders, are in. Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Network is really dragging. So we are getting bits and pieces of your message.
Oh,
It would have been wonderful to hear everything.
oh wow. Maybe I'll just need to restart my network. That's
Okay.
Okay. No worries, Chinasa.
No worries, Chinasa. Yeah, from what she said, and I think I got a glimpse of it, she was trying to say a business analyst acts as an interface between the developer and the business. But when she comes back, she will be able to talk more about that. Lade, I would love you to talk about the essential, like what exactly essentially is RPA business analysis. Chinasa was talking about who a business analyst is. Can you just talk about RPA business analysis, what exactly it is?
Yeah, thank you very much. And welcome to everyone. I'm glad to be here to share information and knowledge. Essentially, business analyst, taking up from what Chinasa left off, would be someone that manages and produces business interactions. So we are managing business expectation, we are defining it, we are planning, we are executing it in terms of innovation relating to RPA at this point. And the major point we are bringing up is to bring company productivity. So I am analyzing business issues, business requests, to give a goal to bring productivity to the organization. I'm not just doing an activity that's not adding value. I'm adding value as I analyze those needs. That's our major essential parts in the path. Thank you.
Okay, that's wonderful. Do we have Chinasa back?
yes, I'm
Okay.
here, but I don't know. The
Okay.
network keeps
Okay.
frustrating. I hope
It's good. It's good.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we got bits and pieces of what you said, and Emmanuel was kind enough to tie it up. I think he had most of it compared to the rest of us. Lade just spoke to us essentially what RPA business analysis is all about, right? Now,
Yes.
this is it. We have, when we say RPA business analysts, we can break that particular statement into two parts. We have RPA on the one side, and then we have business analysis on the other side. So when we say RPA business analysis, the question some persons may want to ask would be, what exactly is the relevance of business analysis to RPA projects? Like, can we just take up an RPA project and start implementation and forget about business analysis? Is it something with a business analysis? Is it an aspect or a stage or a phase or a portion that we could just avoid and just move on with whatever we want to do? So what essentially is the relevance of business analysis to RPA projects?
Okay, I hope my network is better. Can you please confirm if you can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, and we hope we can hear everything you want to say, because
I hope so too.
We really want to hear what you have to say. Yeah.
Oh yes, that's very important. So the relevance, your question says, what is the relevance of RPA if we can just embark on an RPA project without a business analyst? And my answer to that would be no. And that is because, I mean, I've been opportune to work, on RPA projects for, let's say, about 2 years or more. And even in my time as a business analyst, for other technologies as well, it is you cannot survive without business analysts in your project, because there is the business know what they want, and technology know what they want to implement, but there needs to be a fusion between what the business wants and what the technology team wants to implement. So most times, from my experience, I've noticed that, sometimes when the business does, this is what we want to do, they don't even know how to define what they want. They just have an end goal. Okay, this is what we want to do. This is what we want to achieve. But they can't even put it down. More so, they can't even put it down in the manner or in the language. Let me use in the language that the technology team is going to understand. So we need that. We need that person that understands technology, that understand how RPA works, that knows you. That's why it's important to take courses on RPA, because you understand what the expectation is, you understand you understand what process can fit into the RPA system. So when you're engaging the business, you can immediately click in, okay, this process is going to be best fit for an RPA solution, or this process, this implementation is going to be best fit for another technology. So if we don't have that, there's going to be it's going to be very chaotic. I know Lade can actually understand. So it is very important that we have a business analyst for any form of implementation that we want to, especially in the RPA system, because RPA is very sensitive to exceptions, it's very sensitive to how the process works. So you need to be able to, first of all, understand that requirement, capture it in a very detailed manner, and then you're documenting this in your documents, in your PDDs, that the technology can understand. So it's actually bigger than this. There are a lot of other things that we do that makes it very important, but the importance of a business analyst in RPA implementation is very key. Is actually very, very key, because how do you capture this? How do you capture what you need to do? How do you capture the business needs? And how do you also ensure that, okay, after implementation, what we have has met the needs, has satisfied our customers? So it's actually very key that we have a business analyst on our RPA project, so that we can have a smooth ride and ensure that we are delivering value to the organization and to the business at the end of the day.
Thank you very much. So if I'm getting you correctly, it appears you're saying an RPA business analyst has better experience if that person is also a business analyst generally, because we just can't jump into a process and say this process, we're going to use RPA technology to automate it. We want a situation where the business analyst is looking at that process, calculating the automation potential, and trying to say, okay, there's a value to automating this process, and RPA is the technology that is the best fit. That's what you were saying, right? Absolutely. And the reason why I'm interested in hearing your opinions, yourself and Lade, is because fortunately our RPA journeys have crossed at one point in time, especially since 2019, right? And yes, you guys did not just jump into becoming RPA analysts. You guys were business analysts and project managers in terms of IT implementation already before. Yes. In 2019, yes, you added RPA as a start to what you do, right? Yes. So my question on to Lade would be, if we have regular IT implementation, and if one can also say RPA implementation is a subset of IT implementation, right? Yes. Are there similarities between RPA business analysis to RPA implementation as compared to business analysis to IT implementation? I don't know if you get my question, Lade. Yeah, so perfect. We are having IT implementation, and generally we are having business analysis as a crucial aspect of regular IT implementation. But one can also consider an RPA implementation as an IT implementation. So what are the similarities between doing business analysis for an RPA project as compared to a regular IT project? And if there are similarities, are there also major differences?
Yes, thank you, Alfred, for that lovely question. So as you were narrating, it just came to my mind, and I was like, okay, what exactly are we talking about business analysis? We're now talking about it in the sphere of RPA. So what I mentioned what business analysis was before, it says enabling change in an organization by defining the needs, recommending a solution. Now, this solution we are trying to add value to our stakeholders, right? We established that to bring productivity to the company. So the essential difference in this particular topic we're having right now will be the recommendation of our solutions. So as a BA, you are going through RPA, you are going through C#, you are going through Java. What is the essential difference? Is the infrastructure or the methodology of those technologies. So I, as an RPA business analyst that wants to move from, or I am doing the general IT and I want to move to RPA, I would need to learn the methodologies and I would need to learn the architectural designs of what robotics also gives us an added value to automation, IT automation generally. So I would say that is the key difference. So somebody, you are doing an application that is using Java infrastructure. As a business analyst, I learn how to code in Java, because as a business analyst, you would add value even to the development stage. So basically, that's just the difference between that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Lade, for that. When you were discussing, you were trying to differentiate between business analysts for conventional programming or for conventional projects and RPA business analysts. It dawned on me that we need to really talk about the roles and responsibility of an RPA business analyst. Chinasa, I don't know, in your opinion, what will you say are the roles and responsibilities of an RPA business analyst? We would love to know that.
Okay, thank you, Emmanuel. Lade said something about delivering value to, you're delivering value and it's to the organization as a whole. So I think one of the first things first as a business analyst is, we wear many sleeves. So you need to also, you need to be on the business side, you need to be on the technology side, you need to be from, on the enterprise side. So, having worked with, with very large enterprise companies and all, you need to understand, a business analyst is expected to understand the enterprise goals and problem for every financial year, because companies release their goals, their objectives, what they intend to do, maybe for a certain period of years or for that particular year. So you need to be in tune with that. You need to know, okay, what is our organization doing for this year? So sometimes it can be, the organization can decide to go on a digital spree, ensuring that we automate all of our processes. I remember the time where we had that organizational objective as well in one of my previous companies, and we had to automate all of our processes. It was a drive from the management, from the company. So you need to be in tune with what the enterprise wants. Then you also need to be a change manager. You need to be able to drive change. So as a business analyst, one of your roles is being able to drive change. So you need to, you understand what the organization wants. Now, how do you also position yourself to ensure that you can drive this change, across the different departments, the different groups, the different division? Then that will now bring you to also being able to analyze the needs and the solutions of this business. So it can trickle down, from the top. I've talked about understanding the organization objectives, being the change manager yourself, a change driver, and also analyze now, bring, this is what we want to do. Now we are coming into RPA, what do we want to do? You go down to the business, you're going granular. Now you've gone from strategic to operational. You're working with the process owners, the business owners. You're understanding their needs. This is what you need, and you're engaging them. You understand their needs, and then you understand the solution. And what other roles? You also facilitate stakeholders, engagement, stakeholder collaboration between the business, the technology, and the various aspects of the entire organization, not just technology. There are several parts, even risk, there's the compliance, because in trying to understand the need, you also need to balance between compliance, regulation, risk. It's just, as a business analyst, you tend to know a lot of things within your organization, and that's one of the good parts, I enjoy about my role. Then at the end of the day, when you facilitate this collaboration, you also devise strategy, within your team. You come back to your team, there's this conversation, what are we doing? How do we implement this? How do we go about these things? So yeah, these are like the several roles that the business analyst can take on within the implementation of an RPA solution.
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Chinasa, for that. When you were speaking, I was jotting so many things down. I hope the attendees too are jotting, like myself.
Mhm.
Though we won't set exam, but try to at least put one or two things down from
Yeah.
people here. Okay, so I know Chinasa, you're a senior business analyst and you've been in the industry for quite a number of time. I know, I don't know where I got this saying, but I know people used to say business analyst is a friend of a developer, while tester are enemies of developers. But I know you also have your challenges. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the truth. Most developers don't like testers. I know business analysts also have their challenges. The same way developers have their challenges, and testers also have challenges with developers. So I don't know. I want you to answer this question with examples, like maybe just point us to one or two instances. Like I want to know the challenges you face as a business analyst within an RPA implementation project. What are the challenges you faced and how you were able to solve them?
This question. I would also love Lade to speak on it, because if we start today, we cannot finish. We can't finish because
So I would say it's an interesting one because it has to go deep down into the core of what we do. So as we said earlier, you are going to get requirements from your users. So if you have a challenge of missing documentation or tracing the requirements, because you gather requirements a lot, users say, oh, this is what they need, how do you trace it? How do you connect it right to the end to say this is the output that the business would get and validate to say, yes, this is what I need. I didn't need to come back to you 2, 3, 4, 5 times. The quality of your requirement documentation will definitely come to play. So if I have a BA that is just writing a one-liner for an RPA recommendation documentation, then there'll be trouble. They'll be missing. You have to keep going back to the users over and over
100
again.
times.
And definitely, as a business analyst, you're not the one setting the time. Remember, there's a project. So you're not the one setting the time. So if you need to keep going back to a user to ask 5, 4, 5 times, that means the project has not started and time is of an essence. So it's going to be a big and major challenge, which would affect the whole scope of the project. So if you have not gotten the requirement as at that point, it will definitely be, I think that's the major crust of our job as a BA, as a major crust.
Thank you, Lade. And I would also like to add, so I mean, Lade has hit like that down to so there's also the people's part. BA is not just, oh, the technical part, you're doing this, you're doing that. There's also the, when I was speaking about the roles of a business analyst, I mentioned, change drivers. So I remember when we started RPA in my previous organization. It was a fight though, because people thought, oh, this RPA is going to come and take away our jobs. Like it was a serious problem.
I wanted you guys to address that.
Yeah.
So it was a serious
like
problem.
A hot topic, yes.
It was actually a serious problem because users were now hoarding information. I mean, we are not the subject matter experts, we identify them and we work with them to gather these things. So it was really a tough time because people were like, so okay, if you're saying this is what an RPA does, an RPA is supposed to come and, carry out the functions that a human would normally do, that means there's no need for me. And, that's a very valid concern from the user's end, because if I'm saying this technology is going to come and do everything that you do, for example, say settlement or reconciliation that has to do with a lot of Excel manipulations and all, this is something that an RPA would easily do, given that, we have everything sorted out. So it's very valid. It's not to say we don't recognize that, but it's something that we need to do to ensure that we make the quality of life better. So that was the serious problem that we had to encounter. And then we even had to like involve, sometimes BA, you do the one that pass your power. You need to get a top-down, top top-down push again. So no, we had to engage our ED then. There was, oh no, you would not. So there needed to be that extra touch or push from the executive to reassure the users that, no, we are going to take away this mundane task from you and give you a task that will be more fulfilling, something that can be more engaging and, roles that gave them some sort of comfort that, oh, okay, fine, I'm not going to lose my job, then I can now work with you better and ensure that this outfit is actually a success. But it was a serious, real life challenge that we face. So there's always that change. Change is not something that is easy in any form of implementation that you're trying to do, especially with RPA that is supposed to be automatic. RPA is a very interesting solution. I really love it because it makes the work really easy, when we actually get it right. So but there's still that fear. Okay, what am I supposed to do? So there's that people management as well, and you need to be careful so you don't, if you really want your project to be successful, you need to ensure that you're able to manage or drive this change in a way that the users would understand and feel comfortable, enough to work with you. So thank you.
Yeah, so I like that answer. To add to that, I think that is a very, very major challenge when it comes to RPA implementations, especially when it's something that's just been introduced into a particular organization. Everybody just feels my job is gone. But I think, again, that's where the business analyst comes in, because if we are very much aware of the fact that business analysts have more contact with the people.
Business.
If you're trying to correct the business now, if you're trying to democratize RPA within an organization, business analysts can really serve, like you've explained, as change managers, because it's not easy for you to get a group of persons to say, okay, let's change from how we've been doing this thing to this other way, especially if it appears, because I know that one of the things that UiPath teaches is not that RPA or robots are coming to take your jobs, but that robots are coming to make work easier for you, work more enjoyable. So I think if we get down to business, to the business people, and we tell them, what can we help you to automate that will make your life better or easier? I think it's a better approach, like from what I've seen, based on the example that Chinaza gave, then compared to when people just come and say, oh, you have 10 people in these departments that are doing this, and we're going to do 5 robots, and all of you will leave this place. It becomes a problem because nobody is going to give you any form of information that will make your life easier. They'll just give you rubbish, you go and automate, they come back and tell you it's not working. So so that it's quite an experience. So it's very important that if we have people in the audience who are business analysts, who are project managers, because we discovered, especially in this part of the world, companies like to merge business analysis and project management together. And I see reason for that, because the business analyst is someone that, like Chinaza mentioned as well, gets to know almost every part of how the operations of the organization works in terms of the technology space or whatever technologies the organization is trying to implement. It allows them to have a better overview of what the company does technology-wise. And when it now adds project management to that, it makes it all easier. But where I want to come from now is that, okay, we've been talking about business analysis, business analysts, their roles, and so on and so forth. And my question now, I think I would direct that question to Lade, would be, if someone decides, I want to become a business analyst, I want to become an RPA business, what would you say is the required skill set? Are there soft skills, technical skills, hard skills that I need to have? Or if I'm already a business analyst, skills I need to acquire to make me better, more efficient in the way I discharge my duties as a business analyst within my organization?
Thank you, Afe. When I was going through this topic and I was thinking RPA business analyst up and running, what came to my mind basically was that there are 3 roles that easily just move into the RPA space. We've talked about some segments of BAs. You also mentioned PMs, which have an affiliation with BAs. And the last set of people that we've also mentioned, however, we maybe mentioned them in a bad light because of the developer scramble with them, is the testers. So why did I say that? So skills that are required by a BA would first start with the why. That's the essential goal. Why do we want to have this change? Why do we want to? It's people that are curious, not people that just accept the norm. Why do we want to do this? Why do we want to have this change? Or why do you do it this way, basically? So those are the skills that you will need. Then you also need communication skills. Chinasa mentioned going to meet stakeholders. Even if you come and say, oh, I want to automate your work and don't worry, we will not take your work, just saying it on a frontliner would not allay the fears. So you need to find a way of communicating that properly to the business, as we said. And for a business analyst, again, the major focus of skill you need to get is how to get clarity when your business comes to you. If you cannot gain clarity, if somebody has to explain things 10, 15 times, you would have a challenge. So that's why we say from the beginning, learn the architecture and the methodology of your environment first and foremost before you say you want to go get requirement gathering. So UiPath does those free training on how a business analyst should run, how a business analyst should work. They have different segments of training that will equip you to understand the environment early enough. So when people give you requirement gathering, it's very easy. Very, very easy. Then as a business analyst, again, I'll say another skill you need to have is to think about an alternative option. So you have a requirement and the business says, oh, the bot cannot do this. Is there an alternative? Is there another way to do that same task, to achieve that same goal? You need to be a deep thinker to say, okay, since I know the infrastructure and I know the environment, what other avenue can we use? So I'll give you examples where a user will come and meet us and say, please, I download my Excel, I download my report on a daily basis from a portal. Please, I want you to automate that process. For somebody that is maybe a new BA would say, okay, can we get credentials into that portal to log on and do the same thing a human being does? If there's a challenge with that portal, that application cannot go live. But you find out that other experienced people will have alternatives to say, oh, can we even get access to the database of that portal? Because remember, you've learned the infrastructures, you've learned this architecture of that portal, then you know that there's something behind, not just the interface that's given by the user or to the user to implement. So there are other alternative options to use. Then as a BA, again, I used to tell people, just focus on the solution. Don't lay blames. You're not in the position to blame one person. Oh, you didn't give me requirements. That's why I did not do it. You are not in that position. All the blame will come to you. So the best thing you need to do as a mindset is to say, I need to have a solution-oriented mindset. And finally, when you as a BA are doing your activity, sometimes you just sit back and say, I want to get feedback from my business. I want to get feedback from my developers. How am I working? Is the information I'm collecting, is it what you expect? And as a developer on the other side, is the information I'm giving to you, making it easy for you to bring out those products into life? So those are the major skills I would think a BA should have to achieve success. Thank you.
So thank you very much for that answer, Lade. I hope we are taking notes about it. Very important to hear one speak from their experience. Okay, so we are past half of the hour. So I want to ask another question. I would like to direct this to before I say what I'm directing it to. Let me try and build the preamble. So we've talked about the required skill sets. So we've talked about soft skills, being able to communicate. well in verbally and in writing, that the BA should be a people person, should be able to be, should be a people manager, or people manager, to be able to handle the business, because there's sometimes there will be deliverables. You will agree with me that there will be deliverables on the business, or whoever is your subject matter expert, the SMEs, and they don't even have the time. So because of those deliverables, sometimes they are not even in the mood to give you answers or responses, right?
Yeah.
So you want to be able to manage that. Sometimes SMEs can be difficult. You want to be able to manage that, because you remember again that your success is tied to your ability to be able to
manage stakeholders.
Correct. Manage stakeholders and serve as a bridge between what the business wants and what the development team will be able to achieve at the end of the day. So now, since you guys have been in this space for quite a time now, I'd like to see if you can give some of us, from your own point of view, best practices. So what are the best? I think you started mentioned one just now when you're talking about having a solution mindset, and when sometimes you see that it can be troublesome doing the UI automation, you want to ask, is there a way we can have an API or a query or something to get this thing from the backend? So from your experience, and not speaking as a scholar now, but from your experience, saying this to Lade, what best practices would you suggest for an RPA business analyst?
I would say we've touched base on each and every one of those skill sets as we're talking in the webinar. So we talked about knowledge in the business tools, we talked about documentation, we talked about stakeholders management. The one we needed to hammer on again is to say you need to have a problem solution skill. So as I said earlier, there's a problem. So we need a solution to that problem, because remember, the definition of a business analyst is enabling change and giving recommended solutions. That's the basis of, that's the anchor of the business analyst as a role. So those skill sets would definitely come to play. So you need documentation analysis, how you can keep your documents intact, how they meet the need, how you can also trace those requirements down to the output. So those skill sets needs. Then if you are now talking about the skill sets in terms of technical skill sets, I would advise everyone that is a BA in an area to have a course in those areas. So if we're talking about RP basically, so I'll need you to have gone through the UiPath foundation for a BA, the UiPath advanced for a BA. Those courses would help you and groom you to ensure that you have those skill sets. Thank you.
Thank you very much for mentioning the fact that I'm coming to you. Sorry, Chinas, I'm coming to you. Okay. You mentioned again the fact that people can get the UiPath RPA Business Analyst Foundation trainings, quite an extensive training, and much of all the technical portions of what RPA Business is about are spoken. So we encourage the participants in this session. So if you're a business analyst, or even if you're a developer, sometimes I tell developers that it's nice for you to take that course so you can understand even what the business analysts are doing, and so that you are able to synergize with them. Because sometimes you can just see, we can have this kind of friction between BAs and developers, because there's not that mutual understanding is not there. So whether you're a developer or you're a business analyst or a project manager for that matter, it's important that you take that course. It will help. So coming back to Chinas, there's just something I want you to answer in terms of the best practices now. There's something that happens even in regular IT projects. How do we handle scope creep? Because sometimes you've been able to look at a process and you're saying this is out of scope, and before you know what is happening, deadline is approaching. They are telling you, no, can you now make it do this? Can you now make the robot jump like this and go like this? So what would you say from experience is a good strategy, or your own strategy for handling scope creep?
Okay. First, thank you for, encouraging the developers to take the BA, training well so that we can reduce our fights. Okay, yeah, but so scope creep, that scope creep is one of like the most common issues we experience, and most times you need to sit down and understand first, okay, why exactly are we having this? So sometimes you can be in a heavily regulated organization, so you need to understand, is this regulatory? Do we need to accommodate this? So if you're in a, like, maybe you're working in the banking sector, CBN can wake up today and say, oh, you know what, this is the new policy today and it must take effect. So, and then it might be affecting the process that you're working on. So that would definitely, if that happens, that would definitely alter the process and what you have designed to implement, or even may have implemented, you're just about to move to production. So you need to also understand, okay, this scope creep, where is it? What is the basis? Is it a nice to have? Is it a must to have? Is it a good to have? So when you understand, when you rule out the regulatory part, okay, if it's regulatory, you have there's nothing you can do. It just needs to communicate, with your stakeholders. Okay, this is the new position on ground, and this is what we intend to do based on XYZ. And then you get your, if it's going to affect your time, and you get your approval and ensure that every stakeholder is carried along. Then if it's a nice to have, that takes me back to also understanding the organization standpoint. I said there are sometimes the organization is just, okay, we need to, for example, the organization can say, okay, we are eliminating the usage of paper. So anything that has to do with paper, let's just automate it. So that means you sometimes that will just make you to just build workflows, even though some things you might still not have some APIs to connect to what you want to do. But because the organization has said we want to eliminate paper, the business can come, oh no, I just want, once I click a button, let it go to my house and tell my children that this, else I will not accept it. You say, I know. But for now, from the organization standpoint, we want to eliminate paper first to cut that cost. Subsequently, we can, begin to build APIs that would do better things for us. So you also need to know that, okay, we've taken care of regulation, we've taken care of what the organizational drive is at that time, and then there can be some nice to have that may not even affect the overall timeline, because you've added some buffer. We can always accommodate that. But scope creep, it's an unending problem that we just need to keep, know how to manage, know how to communicate, again, like Lade said, with your users. Don't worry, we'll do this, we're just trying to do that. You just be an empath, understand where they're coming from, and try to communicate with them in the manner that they understand. Yeah, you empathize with them, that you understand this is what it is, but we can only do so much now because of these reasons. Communication is very important with users for RPA implementation. So yeah, these are some of the practical ways actually of managed scope creep in implementation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to point out something from what she was saying when she was having that conversation, was when she said, oh, we needed to do paper and there was no API available. I think the line I used to use, I should tell my users and say, innovation is a gradual thing. You can't get there one day. Just, keep at it, keep process improvement, and you get there. Don't think that everything has to happen at one big bang. And it used to help. It helps. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I'm going to hand over the microphone to Emmanuel to handle the Q&A for us.
Okay, thank you very much. I've collected the microphone. I hope you guys have been having a great session, because I have been, actually. And I hope you've been able to get one or two things. At least during this session, I now know that my bot cannot do high jump. Like, so if you have questions, you can just raise up your hand. I think I can see Abisola. Abisola, would you love to unmute to ask your question?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Abisola.
Hi. This is quite an interesting conversation, and thank you all for your contribution. So maybe I would like to also add that one of the things that can make you actually stand out as a BA would be that you getting a bit technical so that you can recommend good technical solutions to the developers too. So you make the project move faster, or whatever you're working on move faster. So you have to understand what kind of solutions they need to be able to recommend something that would work. So a couple of questions from me. So as an RPA business analyst, how do you run in an agile environment? You know, you might have to tweak all of your solutions very often. How do you run in an agile environment? And also, how do you manage difficult stakeholders? So they actually are aware of the capabilities of RPA, they understand, but they are not agreeing to that technical solution that you have preferred. How do you handle such a difficult stakeholder? So those are my two questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Bisola, for that beautiful question. I think I want to start with the second one. How do you handle difficult stakeholder? Chinasa, would you love to answer that for us?
Okay. So how do you manage difficult stakeholder? How do I manage them today? So, well, there are several ways you can deploy. So first things first is you, like I said, and they also agreed, you need to be an empath as a business analyst, you know, that also takes you to your communication skills. So when you meet someone that is probably is not willing to work with you to make the project a smooth one, you just need to try and engage this person. Okay, why are you doing, you know, what's the problem? Like, they keep mentioning why. That why is not only for the project, though, it can also be for issues, for conflicts. Okay, why? What is the problem? Do you have any challenge? You know, sometimes when you ask those questions, you just see that person might just open up and tell you, because I feel, just say something, because I feel you're disturbing me. You're coming at the time when I'm working. That might just be the problem. I say, oh, okay, fine. What time is it? I've had to have some meetings at very late hours, because that's what the business, you know, my stakeholder at that time demanded. And me, I hate working late, but it's something I had to do, because if I come at the time you're very busy, you'll be upset, and then I won't get the required cooperation. So you just need to, you know, ask questions. And then when it becomes too difficult, you can also escalate. There's always the escalation path where you can report to your supervisor, and the supervisor can take it up. Like, you know, I said there's also a top-down approach we can also use in driving change. So yeah, these are some of the ways that you can handle difficult stakeholders.
So in other words, as you were saying, that you try to be their friends first. You want to make sure they are ahead. Okay, so you don't just jump into escalating people when you've not heard their side. Okay, okay,
yes,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Afi, for adding that. Lade, I would love you to answer our second question, which is, or should I say our first question, which is, how do you run in an agile environment?
Okay, thank you very much, Abisola. Thank you for the wonderful questions. We appreciate it. Okay, so for the first one, I think RPA has made it easy for us to run in a very agile way. So what do we do? What's the software development lifecycle of an RPA? You discover, you build, you manage, you run, and you engage. So what does an agile person methodology, what happens in an agile methodology today? You have a process owner that is always engaging the business to have a product backlog. And on RPA, we are doing that, we are managing that. So what do you do as a BA when you are running in an agile way? As you are going through your life cycles, the software life cycles, where you are discovering it, you have a backlog, you have different sprints that you want to do. You build them according to the sprint as the process owner has mandated or prioritized your backlog. So every sprint has its own sprint backlog to say, this is what we want to do. We manage it, we deploy it. For RPA, you have what we call center of excellence, where the support team would be there 24/7, looking at a bot farm. They call it a bot farm, where you have warehouse all your bots, and they are being run on an orchestrator today. Then you engage again. So the life cycle of RPA: discover, build, manage, run, engage. So you find out that the engage at the end is where you have your sprint retrospective, where you say, what did we do right? What did we not do right? Then you go back to that cycle again, you go discover. So for RPA, it already falls into the agile methodology. So it's kind of easy. I don't know if I've been able to address that question, Abisola, to the latter.
Yeah, so it permits me to write on the back of your response. Yeah, we have discovered the build and the rest. I am also a firm believer in the fact that when you're delivering value via RPA implementation, there is really no law that states that whatever business process you're automating must be automated at first 100%. Right?
Yeah.
We could decide to offer value, incrementally. Maybe if I automate some portions of that process now, you can begin to get some value from that now, and then we can do a phase 2 and a phase 3 according to our pipeline. Meaning, for every time there's an iteration and coming back to that process, I'm adding to the value that already exists. I think one of the challenges we find most time within our environment is that many COEs, COE members will say, we want this process run, it must run end to end, it must run end to end. And there are processes, if we are honest, that from the first time, you may not have everything you need to build end to end. The best way to do or go about it is to just deliver value little by little. So automate some portions you can do now, and when you come for the second value, you do another one like that. Yeah, so I think I can see a question around but at least Oluwaseun saying PDD can really make the work easy or difficult. Please assist with guidelines. Or Lade, do you want to speak to that? Or do you want me to continue on that?
Okay. Before we even move to that particular question, I also wanted to buttress the point to say, in Agile, we have each sprint has to produce an MPV, which is called the minimum viable product. It doesn't have to address all the needs. It just has to be a product that addresses a particular need. It can be the most minimum, the most minute thing that you want to do. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the whole scope of the whole project. So it can be run in Agile phase. Thank you. Please go ahead with your
Thank
question.
you, Lade. Thank you, Lade. Afi, would you want to answer the PDD question?
We're having a few minutes left, so I'll be fast with that. So yeah, PDDs can make an RPA implementation. And so that is why we've mentioned time and time again, Lade, Chinaza, they've mentioned that it's important that, even Abisola mentioned something like that, that it's important that business analysts get into the technical side of things. You don't really need to write code, but you want to understand how systems work. So when you look at this, then again, PDD should not be written alone by business analysts, right? So except you are some of us who are developers, we wear so many hats, like Emmanuel is a developer, he's a solution architect, he's a business analyst, he's a project manager, you're just doing everything together. So it gives you the opportunity to get a glance of what happens in all of these spheres, and you're able to relate with people who work in these fields. However, when a PDD is done, it's important after the business analyst has done the first draft, there needs to be a senior RPA developer or a solution architect that looks at that to-be scenario and says, okay, this is how the human person or user manually does this. But if we're to convert this to robot steps, this is the way or the method we are going to use. So why would I need to go to a table that is on a web page and take a value, go to that thing and do it and come back, click on this open, when I can read the entire table, filter what I don't need, leave what I need, and then work with that. So it's important that business analysts and solution architects work together. That is how you can get an easy to implement to-be scenario from a manual as is situation?
I feel that's very
thank you,
spot on. That is very, very spot on. I just want to appreciate that you would say that. So I think why it's most times it's very difficult is the developers exclude themselves from these processes, but it's supposed to be a team's work, because they are more on the technical side. So when we bring this requirement, we need to sit down with the developer, like you said, the solution architect, and work together to ensure that we have the best solution, to give to the business. So I really just appreciate what you said, Afe.
Okay, thank you for that, Chinasa. We have one more question I would love us to quickly answer before we leave. Afe, I don't know if you can answer that in 30 seconds. We are out of time. How can business analysts manage changes in project scoping or requirement that will negatively impact developer build and timeline without making estimates of developer?
Yeah, that is a problem that is familiar in our environment. We know that everybody can agree to that. Most people will agree to that.
Yes.
So quick, I would say that is where what Lade was saying, it comes to play, where we deliver value in batches. So if I have, sometimes when there are very serious changes that affect the architecture of what you have built, you need to bring everything down again to rearrange it in the way that accommodates that change. For me, I think if you see the change affects the timeline for delivery, it's better for you to say, okay, this is a change request. It's very important that it is clearly stated at the very beginning in the PDD, whatever version that everybody signs off on, that this is what is in scope for this implementation. It reduces the argument. If I've written, this is by my understanding, this is what is in scope, I have discussed with my solution architects and everybody says this is how we can do this, and you, the SME or the product or process owner signs off on that. When we are building, if you come and say, oh, right now, let me go back to what Kakuza was laughing about, now I want the bot to jump. I can tell you, please, this is what we have in the PDD. What you want is very good, but can we do that as version 2? For now, can we deliver this? So I think it's a bit of being able to state clearly in the PDD what is in scope, to being able to manage the requests, strange requests you get from business, and being a team player to be able to say, see, it's not as if we're not going to do this, but within this time frame, you want us to give you something that is stable. Like sometimes I ask some people, what will you prefer? Do you want a bot that every 2-3 days you call me that something is wrong? Or you want a stable bot that can run and give you value without headache? Which one would you prefer? And you see, most sensible people will just say, okay, since you are ready to give me this now, I can go with this. But the question will now be, when will you do the next one? Then we can discuss that after that implementation. Right.
Exactly.
Thank you, Afi, for that. I think we are out of time. But quickly before you go, thank you all for joining the call. Please join our community chapter. You can also, if you have issues, UiPath Academy is there for you. Afi, can you please drop the link, academy.uipath? You can always go there to learn more. Okay, we have it here. Join the community, join Academy to learn more about RPA Business Analysts, and if you want to be a developer too. Thank you for joining the session today. It's really appreciated. Afi, do you want to say one or two before we end the call? We are 2 minutes. Christina, do you want to just chip in anything?
No, thank you very much for joining, everyone. I think it was a great meetup, and I'm glad to see such high numbers on this revival of the Lagos chapter. And I hope all of you don't forget to join the chapter. I placed the link in the chat earlier. Thank you very much, Manuel. Thank you very much, Karole, and to our wonderful speaker ladies, Lade and Chinasa as well. Thank you. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Christina.